Yo, yo, what's up, Hivers? 90s Friday is back. Man, is it just me, or do the weeks seem shorter and shorter as you get older and older? Hope everybody's good. Man, the market's a little wacky. We got silver still hanging out, around 36, but just giving out. Anyway, I'll bring you a market vlog late Friday night or Saturday morning. Let's stick to the fun music tunes. Yeah, 90s Friday. I'm doing this thing called 5-Tune Friday, kind of similar vibe to 3-Tune Tuesday, but I'm doing 5 tunes. Just because I love talking about the music. I love sharing these tunes. And this week, there is no, last week, I focused on, the last couple of weeks, I've done, 9 Inch Nails. I did one album and focused on that. This week, the theme is 90s skate punk, and all 5 of these bands are on Epitaph Records, which is an independent label. It was the biggest independent punk rock label in the 90s, and it actually had bands sell millions of albums. Again, the Offspring smash, which sold, 10 million albums, and it was on an independent label, which is crazy. It's so much crazier than what Green Day did, even though they sold more albums. They sold 20-something million of Dookie worldwide. It's freaking crazy. It's crazy. So I am going to include the Offspring. The other bands, generally, a little bit more underground. The band Rancid did have some success on MTV and radio. Not quite as big as the Offspring. But they did play SNL and have success. So let's see. Should I start out with the Offspring with something? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to do the song Bad Habit. I'm not doing a single. I've already done an Offspring song from this album that's been on the radio. This is the stuff you probably don't know. Track 3 from the 1994 album Smash, Epitaph Records. The song Bad Habit. Pretty good song. It's on a couple soundtracks. When I go driving and I stay in my lane. I have a lot of friends who used to blast this song when we were driving and we were 19, 20, 21. It's definitely a road rage enthused song. It's a really good song. It's just a fun, sarcastic, kick-ass tune. And yeah, the Offspring, I don't want to sound like a broken record. It's just so insane that they actually were huge commercially while only being on an independent label. You've had bands that have one hit, on an independent label. They had 3 really big hits, 2 really big, and huge promotion. It's not like there was one fluke. You always have in the 2000s, you'd see some indie band have one song that blows up, M83. They had that song. I don't even know the name of it. Hurry Up or something. I forget the name of it. Something like Gautier, somebody that I used to know. Pumped Up Kicks, from Foster the People. I don't even know if they were all on independent labels. But sometimes you'll get a one-hit wonder. The Offspring, they had 3 monster radio songs all over MTV. And then they did leave for a major label for the next record. The band Rancid did not do that. They're going to be the second pick. Their 1995 album, Out Come the Wolves. Now, they actually were offered... and by the way, the second track will be Rancid's The 11th Hour off of And Out Come the Wolves from 1995. Rancid was actually on MTV for their 94 album. Not heavy rotation or anything, but they were actually offered the major label money because you got to remember what was happening. Green Day and the Offspring blew up. MTV was trying to play the band NoFX, and the band NoFX actually told them to screw off. We hate you guys. You're corporate. Don't play our music, which I think was the dumbest thing ever. Because they could have built a bigger audience and just not tried to be big. You know, like The Offspring and Green Day, they didn't just do what they wanted. All right, not to trash anybody. The Offspring literally refined their sound to be more radio friendly. For their 98 album, Americana, I mean, Pretty Fly for a White Guy, they went in with a producer and a songwriting partner and said, we want to have a pop song. We want to blow up. And it worked. They slowed down on the 96 album, the direct follow-up to Smash, the album we just talked about a second ago. And they did try to slow it down and kind of stay on that wave. I think they figured, if we just do another Smash, you know, this moment might not even be in anymore. Let's and plus they had the benefit of Green Day rushing to do their follow-up. Again, Green Day Dookie came out in early '94. One of the top selling, I think it's one of the top 10 best-selling albums of the '90s. Usually bands tour for like 2 years. They literally had a follow-up out by the end of '95, which is just crazy. And it was actually like more punk. And it seemed like they actually were like, this is weird. We're just going to do a fast, wild punk album. And we don't even care if it sells 10% of the albums that Dookie did. That's actually kind of the vibe it gave off. And it actually did bomb in comparison. Now, I think it still sold a few million albums. Today, that would be insane. But compared to Dookie's success, not really. I mean, you had probably the most notable single was, well, I'm having trouble trying to sleep. Didn't. Got in shape, but running out. My mouth is dry, and it's just that same burn out. It's actually kind of a ripoff of a Chicago song, the band Chicago. Green Day are the kings of ripping off other bands. So many of their songs are literally just taken, switched up a little bit. It's pretty crazy. So the Offspring had, you know, were able to see that and be like, all right, we're changing it up. We want to keep this going. And I'm not bashing them. Where a band like Rancid went the total other way, as Green Day did initially, but then Green Day was like, all right, we're going to get acoustic here. We're going to slow it down. We're going to put out a ballad that's going to be the biggest song. You know, the album came out in '97, Nimrod, the next Green Day album. I know I'm giving you some bonus talk here, but hey, it's this is a punk rock 90s Friday. I'm giving you the ins and outs. So the Offspring album, actually, I think that came out in '97 too, but Green Day's album came out first. And Green Day obviously had the win, even though the Offspring had a huge hit with Pretty Fly for a White Guy. It was definitely very pop. A little corny. You know, fun, of course. But Green Day's Time of Your Life, I mean, heck, it was played during the last episode of Seinfeld. You know, it was the third single on the album. It came out in '98, even though the album had come out, 8 months prior. And it was every graduation song. It literally put Green Day back on top of the map. Basically, like, it's almost like a one-hit wonder of a band that's already got a bunch of hits. And then Green Day's next album in 2000 was kind of a different vibe. They were doing something different. They had some minor hits, but, they kind of dropped off. And then by 2002, they were opening up for Blink-182. Green Day was co-headlining, no doubt about it. But they played first, and Blink-182 was definitely the main seller, which sounds insane when you think about how big Green Day was in the 90s, that by 2002, Blink-182 was literally the bigger band on the tour. And then all of a sudden, 2004, American Idiot becomes the biggest selling and biggest rock album of the 2000s. From a commercial standpoint, the number of singles, 6 music videos, MTV, radio. Obviously by then things had started changing with the record industry, but it still sold so many albums, and it just put them back on the map. Like they were kind of going on this weird trajectory where they were gonna, probably have some minor hits, and a lot of people still cared about them, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're like the biggest band all over again, brand new generation. Exactly a decade later, I remember I was at the record release show for American Idiot, Irving Plaza, New York City. None of us knew that album was going to be that huge. But, we went. I was there. I stood online to buy tickets on a Saturday morning about a month before the concert. The venue only holds about 800 people. And I remember that night very well because I remember there were people from the high school I went to there. I had been out of high school for just over a year at that point. And I remember there was like this girl I liked who was still a senior and hanging out with them. And it was just a really good time. It was a really good time. And I remember them doing the encore. And all those live performances that are actually on the American Idiot Deluxe Edition that came out like in the last 10 years at some point. I think it was like the, the 10th anniversary or 15th anniversary. I was at the show that they actually recorded them out. They played We Are the Champions by Queen, some other cover songs. So it's pretty cool. So you never know. And then The Offspring, they just fell off. They never had, they didn't have the American Idiot moment. They did put out an album in 2003 and then 2008 and then 2012. And I think the next one was 2021. So they had a long trek there with not much. And, I actually saw them in I guess it was 2012. And it was them with 3 other bands at a pretty small venue. So you just never know what's going to happen. But anyway, Rancid, a band that did not have the success of Green Day and The Offspring, but kind of got halfway there. Out Come the Wolves sold, it went gold, sold over 500,000 albums. And then again, for the second round, they're getting all these major label offers and probably some insane ones because they already proved they were playing Saturday Night Live. They were already halfway there. There's rumors that Madonna, who was somehow involved with management at Maverick Records, apparently sent some photos, some racy photos. And then what does Rancid do? They tour the hell out of their 95 album because it blew up. They end up doing a reggae kind of weird, totally non-mainstream album. It comes out in 1998 and just totally anti-mainstream. Very, very much like the Clash influence kind of vibe. And, they stayed on their indie label and, still had a lot of fans. But they definitely went the other way. They definitely could have written another album just like this one or maybe even gone poppier. And then by the time that would have come out, you have bands like Blink-182 blowing up. And, they just stuck to their guns. That's the way to do it. Don't literally write the radio stations and MTV and say, do not play our songs or we'll sue you, which is what NoFX did. No. If they play you, let them play you. You're not begging for it. It's just happening. And then 2000, they kind of went back to their roots. And they never really had that mainstream success again. Anyway, a lot of in-between talk here, giving you some of the back details. Let's go into NoFX. The 1992 album, White Trash, Two Heebs, and a Bean, describing themselves, obviously, mocking, ignorance and stuff like that. We're going to do the song Sticking in My Eye. Now, this album was probably the first skate punk album that was just super catchy. There's a song on this album called Can't Play the Song on the Radio, which is purposely written like a pop song. And I got to tell you, it's catchy as hell. And then they're making fun of the radio. And the whole song, it's like, the name of the song is Please Play the Song on the Radio. And then halfway through the song, they start cursing and saying all this stuff. And they're like, right about now, some asshole DJ. Anyway, you got to hear it. Maybe I'll put it as a bonus jam. But I'm picking the song Sticking in My Eye. It's just a great song, great punk rock, classic 90s tune. And this was, I think, the first album that made bands like Green Day and The Offspring go, oh, this, if NoFX wanted to, they could probably go on a major label with an album like this. You know what it reminds me of? A band like Sum 41, who blew up in 2000, 2001. like this song could be a Sum 41 song. So I mean, years later, it actually did make it mainstream. You know, the same kind of sound. But anyway, I'm a little behind here, so let's keep going. Next up will be the band Millencolin, a band. Again, this is Epitaph Records, the best distribution for an independent label in the 90s. You have The Offspring blowing up. You have Rancid kind of halfway blowing up. I am shocked that this band did not get a little bit of mainstream success. And I think the album to do it would have been the follow-up to this one, which actually came out in the year 2000. But you got to remember, Blink-182 was huge in the year 2000. And they have a song called No Cigar. Maybe I'll put that as a bonus jam too, which I think should have been an alternative rock hit. But this is their 97 album. It's from the album Four Monkeys. Now, Millencolin is a Swedish band. I'm going to do the song Boring Planet. I think it's super catchy. I remember having it on a mixtape in 1998. One of my friends made me with a bunch of punk bands I hadn't heard yet. And I think they're just super catchy. And it's, you know, it is what it is. You know, they were on the right label, you know, to be independent, but have the best chance for, you know, a big audience. And they just did not get any MTV play or any radio play. And I personally think they should have. I think the song Losing Must or Random I Am, there's just some really good songs on this album. I think it's probably just one of their best albums cover to cover that this label ever put out. But I am going to do the song Boring Planet. I just personally, that was on the mixtape I got, the first song I heard by them. And yeah, that's why I'm picking that one. All right. Another band that did get some radio play here and there throughout the years. The band Pennywise. Now I'm going back. A lot of people, their favorite record is their 97 album. I'm going to 1995 again. The album About Time. And I'm going to showcase the song Perfect People. Probably a band that's, if you've heard Smash from The Offspring, I would say like they sound a lot they're very similar. But Pennywise never changed. They just kind of kept being like that fast skate punk sound. That's not totally true. In 1999, their 99 album, they put a slower song on it. And, you know, who knows what they were trying to do. And then randomly in 2001, they had a song called Fuck Authority, which actually made it like on mainstream alternative radio. Obviously, it was like bleeped out. And then you know what happened? After 9/11, the FCC pulled it, just like they pulled the song Bleed American from the band Jimmy Eat World, which was their first single about 6 months before the song The Middle blew up. The band Sugar Cult had a song called Blowing Up the Neighborhood, which was not literally about blowing up a neighborhood. It was just talking about suburban life and how, you know, it's not very fun and, you know, it's like teen angst kind of crap. And all these songs were banned off the radio because of the Bush administration. You know, just anything that had the word blowing up in it was taken off the radio. So who knows? Maybe Pennywise would have had a bigger hit, you know, in the 2000s. But yeah, a weird band that kind of never crossed over, but almost did like 5 different times. You know, they were on tour with The Offspring in the 94-95 era. You know, they've been on a couple soundtracks. And then even in the 2000s, like they had a minor song on the radio, ruined by the Bush administration pulling it, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. It's just saying F authority. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that in the year 2001, 2002, an administration was pulling songs because it's talking about blowing up the neighborhood. The song was called Stuck in America. So anything that just had a minor reference, even though it's a song about teen angst and metaphorically blowing up the neighborhood, or just saying F authority, that's pretty crazy when you think about it. That actually happened and like nobody really said anything because of 9/11. Even like the lefties didn't really ever. I've never heard anybody talk about this. I just remember at the time I was a fan of these bands, and I was really bummed that their songs were pulled off the radio. At least Jimmy Eat World got to have another big hit. You know, they got to have that breakout single and then had a couple follow ups, and have even had some success in the years following that on other albums. But yeah, Pennywise, I just remember going to these shows and being in high school, and I got to be honest, me and my friends would kind of. It was the mentality to think these bands were sellouts if they were like on the radio. A lot of people thought that. I think that's stupid. I think the test is, do they change their music on purpose to try to be something they're not? That's selling out. Getting your stuff played because of what it is, and you not changing the follow-up to try to, continue that. And I got to say, The Offspring did sell out. I still think they have some great songs. I think the song "The Kids Aren't All Right" from their '97 album Americana, which is the same album Pretty Fly for a White Guy was on, Get a Job, which was also like a very cheesy poppy kind of song, and then their fourth single "She's Got Issues" was also a very overproduced, like, hey, we want to be on the radio kind of song. But "The Kids Aren't All Right" is just a fast punk alternative rock great tune. And I think it's probably a lot of fans' favorite song by them. So, they write some great tunes. I don't mean to pick on them. It's just they're the easy one on this list out of these 5 Epitaph bands. And yeah, it's just a very different kind of take on success. And, again, the band NoFX, and, their 94 and 97 albums literally wrote letters saying, do not play our song. I remember Brazilian MTV played them, and they literally sent like legal papers saying, do not play us, which is just crazy. And Epitaph Records was just like, hey, all right, whatever you want. You are selling hundreds of thousands of albums, so, you're a success, in our opinion. Yeah, we won't promote you to the mainstream if you don't want it. Just so random. Anyway, I just ate dinner, and I'm getting a little indigestion, so I'll leave it there. You got a good long vlog today. But I love you guys. Later.